Good afternoon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Housing Committee Board, the public visiting. We just want to say thank you for coming out this evening. Oh, I'm sorry, Paula is coming. This meeting is now called to order. Is being called to order and broadcast on Channel 18, and in accordance with the MGL Chapter 30A, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. See no hands up, so we are ready to go. Welcome, Paula. Welcome, Paula.
Welcome.
That's okay. Thanks for coming out.
I didn't know you with your hat on.
Okay, we're gonna move right ahead with, is there anything else you want us to do? Or just go ahead with the public comment?
Sometimes we
Okay. On the agenda, we have public comment. We have the Hanover Highness presentation of the Local Initiative Program, LIP, Local Action Unit application. Presentation of the application and possible vote to sign LIP, the Local Action Unit application for Hanover Highness, 36 affordable units at 99 Wilkins Lane in Barnstable, Mass.
And how many units are in Wilkins Lane? What's the total number?
they'll present.
Oh, they'll present it.
Yes.
Ooh.
Actually, Elizabeth, is there a quick? I'll grab that. All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for having us. My name's Steve Dazzo. I'm a development partner with the Hanover Company. With me is my associate, Hunter Hagdorn. He's going to be giving you a brief overview of the project. I just wanted to start off with saying, as most of you are aware, we've spent the last few years going through a lengthy entitlement and permitting process with many boards and commissions in Barnstable, along with at the Cape Cod Commission level. So at this point, we are under construction, and we're excited to be part of the solution to the acute housing shortage that we're all well aware of. So with that, I'll hand it over to Hunter to walk you through the project and our application. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to the Housing Committee. Thank you especially to Elizabeth for her diligence throughout this process as we're working to get to the finish line here and provide a great community for the town of Barnstable and the greater Cape Cod region. So we'll get started here. So just a brief overview about the Hanover Company. So Hanover is headquartered in Houston, Texas, one of the most active privately held multifamily development companies in the country. We are nationwide with a strategic focus on high-quality rental properties. To date, we've developed over 58,000 apartment homes across the country since our inception in 1982. And of those 58,000, 6,800 of them, approximately are in the Boston MSA. So we have a significant experience here, having done business in 18 different cities and towns and completed 24 projects, with another 5 or 6 under construction to date, including the one in Hyannis. Just a brief background about the entitlement process that we've been through with the town of Barnstable and the Cape Cod Commission. In August of 2020, we filed a notice of intent with the Cape Cod Commission to amend an existing development agreement between the Cape Cod Hospital and the Cape Cod Commission. In June 30th of 2022, nearly 2 years later, we reached a unanimous development agreement approval for the intended use there today. As part of that process, the Barnstable Town Council voted in favor of creating the mixed-use subzone of the Medical Services Overlay District, which you see on the map here. And that zoning amendment has provided for the intended use of increased rental and affordable housing opportunities. And prior to us starting construction in September of 2022, the Barnstable Building Department issued site plan review approval for the project that is currently under construction. Now on the screen is the site plan rendering of the project that's currently under construction. So as you can see, it's 3 residential buildings, 4 stories apiece. The ancillary buildings represent detached garages. There's 2 entries to the project. There is an ADA accessible route that will be accessible throughout the entirety of the project. The exterior amenities consist of multiple great lawns, a dog run, a resort-style pool, fireplaces and TVs, as well as seating areas for folks who would like to enjoy a night in the courtyard or working from home, which we've seen a huge uptick in, as you can imagine. The interior amenities will consist of an 8,000 square foot clubhouse, an e-lounge, multiple conference rooms, a demonstration kitchen, a cinema theater with cinema seating, as well as work from home spaces with private outlets for folks. The unit mix is attached here. The 1-bedroom units will total 159. The 2-bedroom units, 101, and there will be 12 3-bedroom units, bringing the total unit count to 272. Of those 272 units, 13% of them will be affordable, 10% of which will be made affordable at the 65% AMI, and then an additional 3% will be reserved as affordable at the 80% AMI. The size range of the 1-bedrooms are from 535 square feet to 917. For the 2-bedrooms, it's 1,072 square feet to 1,348. And the 3-bedroom units, we have 1 unit type at 1,469 square feet. I've included the market rate rents here, just as I imagine they would come up in discussion. I would like to state that the market rate rents here that we've included are based on the current available rental units that are within the Barnstable and Greater Cape Cod and Southern Massachusetts markets. And so this is what we feel is a reflection of a product of this quality for market rates. They will either increase or decrease based on the demand for those. Hanover has an incentive to lease the project, provide housing for the folks of this community, and maintain a great velocity as we continue phasing the project. The project will be built in essentially 4 phases. We intend the clubhouse and leasing area to turn in November of this year. The first phase of units late this year, early 2024, and then the second and third phases will come in 3-month increments, finishing up in the summer of 2024, and that'll bring the project total to 272 available units. I've included the affordable unit mix here as we've presented within the LIP LAU application. This is subject to change based on our conversations today as well as the DHCD process. But our initial unit mix for the 65% AMI is 18 1-bedroom units, 9 2-bedroom units, and 1 3-bedroom unit, bringing the unit count to 28. That represents, as I said prior, 10% of the total affordable unit mix. The 80% AMI unit mix is going to be 5 1-bedroom units, 1 2-bedroom unit, and 3 3-bedroom units, bringing the total unit count to 8 made available at the 80% AMI. I would like to say that we have furnished, as part of the LIP LAU application, the floor plans of the project with the unit selections included into those 4 floor plans. It is our intention to disperse the units throughout the 3 separate buildings proportionately, as well as along the floor plans. Like, as I said, it's a 4-story building, so as along those floor plans, as well as to avoid stacking those units in any particular location on the site, and make available a great selection for when the affordable residents are approved and eligible, and then go to pick their unit. The net monthly rent here that I've included is based on the 2022 HUD income limit publication, net of the utility allowance that is, what we're using here today is the Barnstable Housing Authority utility allowance made effective October 1st of 2021 for the elevator high-rise apartment category. That is the extent of the presentation, and the pictures I've included at the end here just are representative of Hanover's latest and greatest product in terms of unit finishes. The unit finishes will be the same across all 272 units, so as not to leave affordable units and market rate units separate from each other. The unit finishes will be the exact same throughout the units, the bathrooms, as well as complete access to the full amenities package. And now for any questions. Thank you.
Looks like the substantial majority are the one bedrooms. So it's like workforce housing? Substantial number of your units are one bedroom only. So is that what we're focusing on, workforce type apartments?
I'll take that, Hunter. And you're asking about the project in its entirety, correct? Not just the affordable units?
You have many more.
Yes, one bedrooms.
Yes.
That's what we see the highest demand for, and you're exactly right. It is intended to meet the workforce type of income limit. So we have, and you can see the range in those unit sizes is pretty substantial, going from 537 square feet up to above 900 square feet. So there's a wide range of units to select from. So even the market rate units are affordable at certain workforce limits.
Well, we need workforce. I worry about families. Just one more question. I noticed that you started this in 2021, then 22, it's now 23. Do you have any, other than getting rid of all these pesky rules and regulations, is there anything that the government could do to make this quicker? Because I understand the sunk costs with legal, architectural, engineering, and the longer it goes, the harder these things are to build and bring in at an affordable rate. Is there any suggestions?
Well, that's a great comment. We could be here all night for the answer. You know, it has been a very streamlined process, and we go through lengthy review for the right reasons. But you're absolutely right. It was 2.5 years or so that we were working through the entitlement process to get to start construction on this. And that was one of the comments we heard before every board and commission and subcommittee that we were at from the public was, we need this to move faster. We need these apartments available now. I can't give you a direct answer about how to streamline the process. I mean, it certainly could be done.
Question. I'm sorry,
absolutely. But
I am looking for how we can hurry these things along, if there's anything we can do or the town council can do.
Or was there anything in specific that kind of held you back from moving forward? Anything that you could think of?
Well, I wouldn't say, Madam Chair, that there was anything that held us back. It was just there was lengthy review before all the boards and committees for the right reasons, because there was a change to the zoning. We had to amend the development agreement with the Cape Cod Commission. So it is a lengthy process to get through that, and you have peer review at each stage. So, there's not one thing in particular that I could point to that really held us up or anything, but it's the nature of a development project that there's a lot to review and there are a lot of impacts that need to be analyzed. So there's no quick way to do it unless, for instance, you're in Houston, Texas, where there's no zoning and you can build whatever you want, wherever you want. But so I'm rambling and I'm not really giving you an answer, but I think
It's understandable.
I think we're all on the same page.
Yes.
That it's particularly on Cape Cod where there is such an acute housing shortage and it needs to be built more quickly. And we would love to do more and be a bigger part of the solution if we could.
Unfortunately, I think rambling's probably the best answer since we have the Cape Cod Commission, we have the Town Council, we have the State Department, we have environmental, we have, there's probably 12 or 14 agencies that you have to interface with to get anything even off the ground.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for doing this. I know it's not easy and it's not quick.
Are these year-round rentals only?
Yes, there's a restriction in, I believe it's the mixed-use subzone where only 10% of the units could be let at 6 months and no units can be leased at under 3 months. So the majority of them are year-round housing, but so 10%, 28 units can be leased for 6 months or less.
And what about rental rate increases?
In terms of the market rate units,
In terms of how you'd go about figuring that out? Because right now I'm looking at 1,800 for a 500 square foot unit, which to me is kind of unacceptable. That's 100 square feet over a tiny home, and that's, I mean, you've gone through all the boards and everything to get here, so this is kind of a done deal. But the market rates are just not affordable regardless. I mean, we need housing. There's no question about that, but I'm wondering what the increase in rental rates will be, when it will be, and if there's a limitation on that.
it's a good question. There's not a limitation, but what I will say is the rents you're looking at are not the rents. That's just what we project the rents to be. Again, they're market rate rents, so they're driven by the demand for the units, so they may be substantially less if there's not enough people that can afford to pay that, and they come down. And there may be somebody who leases that unit and then moves out, and there's no demand at that price, and the rent goes down. So there's no math on our end around how much the rents increase or decrease. It's all market driven.
Okay, so the rent could be raised 10% or more year over year.
Well, and just to clarify, he's speaking to the market rate units. The rents on the affordable units are restricted, and they
Right.
must continue to be in compliance with those HUD numbers. And under the terms of the agreement, they do have to submit any proposed increases to the town for approval. And the town has, successfully negotiated with major developers or property owners on increases in rental rates in developments with affordable units in them.
Okay, thank you.
I think we need to get a jump on zoning before right away, to find out where you can build. And that is something that we have to do very soon. I think that's number one thing, is zoning. Number two, I think the units should be more for 2-bedroom units for a family. And the rates, I think, are extremely high. And I understand the cost and this and that, but people, I don't know how they will come up with that kind of money, because their jobs don't give them that kind of money. So I think we need to think in terms of trying to reach all the groups here in Barnstable County, to give them a decent place to live. Because you give someone a decent place to live, then you have stability in the community, in the schools, social services, and so on. I know where I live, there's no place for any apartment. I live on 6A in the village. So there's very few places that you can place these units. There's a wonderful one up there on, is it 28, when it comes out to 149? Yeah, because I think you need a playground, and when you build these places, you need a playground, you need a little community park, you need a little convenience store, not so much a swimming pool. And I was a swimmer every single day, but not so much anymore. Okay, so I think you have to think in terms about what the family really does need. And I think it's a park and a little grocery store they can go to, and make it a community, not just a building. So I don't know where you're going to put it, but good luck.
I just have 2 questions. The first was, is there a stipulation in the rental agreement about putting up your unit for like an Airbnb or some type of rental service like that?
I believe that there is. We don't allow it in our buildings, and
Okay.
it can be difficult to manage at times. But there is the restriction regarding no short-term leases beyond 6 months. But it's something that we have to manage, and we are a vertically integrated firm, so we have our own management team that will be on site every single day, many of whom will live in the building. So they get to know the residents and understand what's happening with the building. But I understand why that's a concern, and it's a concern for us as a building owner as well that we constantly have to manage.
Yeah, so it's in something that, like, to lease.
Yes.
I would sign, okay. But
Correct.
then managing it is difficult.
Yes.
Yeah, I would imagine that. The other question I have is, and if you, I don't know if you have this off the top of your head, is for a project like this for your company, how fast are you returning your investment on this? Like, when are you profitable, and how many years when you create a venture like this?
That's a loaded question. It all depends on how quickly the building fills up. So I really can't give a direct answer on it. It varies situation by situation. We prepare these projects and put a timeline together for how long we expect it to take to lease the building up, and it's generally 12 to 18 months beyond the completion of construction. So we expect, the late spring, early summer next year to be completing construction on the project, and from that date, give it another year or so before the building is full.
Yeah, okay. Because my perspective on this, and I don't know the numbers from your end, when you're putting an apartment up for 80% AMI, is that a net negative for you right off the bat? Are you at break even on that unit? Are you still making a little bit of money on that unit? And just, 36 out of 272, 13%, that's good, but I know I'm a teacher. My wife is a nonprofit fundraiser. We're kind of at those like lower end white, collar professionals. We couldn't afford to live in a place like this. So if it would make you profitable a year later on, but you could add 8 units of 80%, I'm just wondering, is that something that's possible without completely sinking the profitability of the project for you?
So that's more easy for me to answer. At this stage, it is not. These projects in general are very difficult to finance. We have to go out to the financial markets and get a large lender and an institutional investor to choose to give us the money to build these buildings. And they, scrutinize those numbers, and restricting the rents is obviously very impactful. So that whole process is already done. So it's not on the table at this point to further restrict the units.
Okay.
I had a couple follow-up questions to that. One to Liz. When developers come into town and build, regardless of whom, are they responsible for updating us on, say, in return on investment in so many years? Is that something that we'd have information on, especially from a private company?
So I guess it depends. Typically, if we have a development like Hanover, who's just fulfilling their inclusionary obligation, in this case, enhanced inclusionary obligation, then we don't typically get into their development pro forma. If we are working collaboratively with a developer and we are providing public subsidy, typically through our Affordable Housing Trust, then we will ask them essentially to go through that pro forma to ensure that the public funds that are being expended on a project are sort of in keeping with overall project costs, and nothing like the developer fee isn't out of whack or something like that. But typically for a private development, we don't get into that. If there is public money in there, that's when we do look at that overall picture.
Okay.
And I will just say for the record, we do approach all developers and sort of pitch the offer of the availability of funds, in this case trust funds, to buy down additional units above and beyond the minimum inclusionary affordable. I think they just explained why that's not always viable, but we do sort of actively have those conversations on all residential developments that come across our desk.
And with these rents, I'm a nurse at Cape Cod Hospital, and I couldn't afford a 2-bedroom for my family. What kind of services are there with it? So is there somebody on site 24/7 available to call for any kind of problem that, tenants may have with the units? Like, what kind of services come with this? And I'm assuming these rents are not inclusive of any kind of utilities.
Correct. So the residents will pay their own utilities, just like if you owned your own home. We do have a maintenance staff who's on site, so if something goes wrong in the unit, they're available to come coordinate and take care of that. Hunter went through the lengthy list of amenities that are available to everybody, and those are included in your rent. You don't have to pay extra for any of that. So that's really it. There's no other services in addition to that. There's no food service or laundry service or anything of that nature.
No security on site or maintenance on site 24/7?
Yes, maintenance is on site, yes, not security, though. Yes, sir.
It may just not be the slide, or it may be my memory, but isn't there, you did the 85% AMI and the 65, isn't there a lower figure? I think I saw something earlier, that was 50% or 35 or something. Was that intentionally left out because those are obviously not profitable?
So, I mean, I'll take a stab. So our inclusionary ordinance, so our inclusionary general ordinance requires 10% of all new units in projects of 10 units or more I'm sorry, I got lost in all the tens. So for projects of 10 units or more, at least 10% of the units must be deed restricted affordable at 65%. So 65 is sort of our standard inclusionary. As part of the entitlement process that they spoke of, we did have to make zoning amendments to allow the density for this project by right. And through that process, there was an amendment in the zoning that required the additional 3% of units at 80 that was negotiated and approved by the town council. So 65 and 80 tend to be our typical. 65 is kind of a weird number, as I'm learning. Typically, it's 60 and 80. But again, we have seen projects like the 850, for example, that again required an amendment to zoning in which a requirement was negotiated for 50. So that number can be variable, but our standard is 65. 80 is the standard to be required affordable and eligible for the subsidized housing unit is 80 or less. Has it subsidized housing inventory is 80 or less.
All right, thank you. I wish we had another name and then affordable, because most of my grandkids couldn't afford these.
Right, yeah, I mean, we saw that, right?
A teacher that has a problem.
We saw that 30% jump in HUD rents between 2021 and 2022, and it's definitely produced that concern.
We shouldn't worry about the name.
Is there any possibility of moving some units that are at 100% AMI? Would that still be considered inclusionary?
So you can deed restrict units at 100% AMI with CPC funds. So you can use public funds to help buy down units up to 100% of AMI with CPC. That's still eligible. They call them community housing units. But again, I think it would be great to see that number go up even higher to 120, but that's the eligibility cap on CPC.
Any more questions? More concern? Yes, go ahead, Paula.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is maybe a question to Elizabeth. The agenda item is the presentation of the application and a possible vote to sign the LIP Local Action Unit application. The actual application isn't before the committee, is it?
So there are, yes, essentially two signatures that come, that are required on that LIP application. So the committee as I think it's community, the official name, the official body that this is the sort of Community Housing Committee, and then it's actually the manager that physically signs that application with the recommendation of with this board.
So maybe I should be more clear. The application usually would include information about the marketing and the lottery and all that, all those aspects?
So we have a complete package from Hanover that we have reviewed through a housing consultant for the town, because we don't have a housing coordinator, to make sure that it will meet all of those LIP applications. So all the information that they just walked through, the rents, the bedroom mix, the location of the units in the buildings themselves, as well as the affirmative fair housing marketing plan, are in the possession of planning and development, and we have reviewed those and under review, and we give this committee our confidence to that on signing the application.
Okay.
So we don't have a housing person.
We don't have a housing, so we don't have a housing coordinator right now. We are under contract with Arden Cadron, who was our previous housing coordinator, back, who is doing the review for us on that. And we're very thankful that they have consulted with SEB, who is an expert on putting these together in compliance with LIP requirements. So between Arden and their representative from SEB, we're confident.
What is the plan to get a housing person on board?
Yeah, so we have been advertising for the housing coordinator position without success. I believe at this point, our intention is to open up that position to a planner position. We've had excellent luck recruiting planners, and continue with the strength of our existing staff to support the housing needs of our community, many of which you heard today are housing related relative to zoning and land use, as well as continue to contract for and train up on the specifics relative to
And I think
projects
reaching
like
out
this.
to other communities that are doing some very interesting things with their housing development. One would be Brookline, one would be Newton. You could see what they were doing in Plymouth. Oh, excuse me. It's 4 o'clock, probably. All right. What they're doing in Brookline, what they're doing in Newton, a good group to hook up with is Citizens Housing and Planning. They have done many, many projects and have information to share with everyone. So you don't have to pay for a lot of these things. You can go elsewhere and see what they're doing. And maybe making, in this part of the Cape, making it more regional or connecting it with other towns on the Cape, because this crisis has been here for a long time. It's not just maybe 15 years ago, there was still a crisis. Now it's families that are really going to suffer. It's easier to put one person in a one-bedroom apartment, but find a two-bedroom apartment with a family. And the costs are too high, even if you get a subsidy. I mean, my highest salary was $79,000 20 years ago, and that's with almost a PhD. So the salaries aren't equal to what the rents are here. They just don't produce those salaries. So I don't know how you solve it, but we need to have a housing person on board, someone.
I mean, absolutely. I think housing, as we've talked about extensively internally, is tricky because it's two functions, right? It's the ongoing sort of technical monitoring and maintenance and upkeep of your existing affordable stock. And then it's that really leadership and innovation in terms of how do we come and bring new solutions to the table. So we think sort of through a restructured internal approach, instead of trying to put all of those things into one position, hopefully we can find resources both at the town and hopefully in the long term in cooperation with the county to better support that sort of that technical piece, and then again through our planning and development department and partnerships really allow us to be able to focus on that innovation piece.
Because many of the houses here are used for 2 weeks a year, the larger homes, and they go unrented.
And more since
And
COVID.
more people are renting their properties and only coming down for a couple of weeks a year. So that's a consideration, a big one. I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah.
I don't
Thank you,
think
Councillor. Did you have another question?
Yes, I just wanted to follow up. Again, it's both a role of the Housing Committee to be the approver of the LIP applications, and in deference to Elizabeth, I understand that there's been a lot to do in her department with the loss of staff, and I understand the timing of wanting to get this application completed. But I feel like the committee's not seen the full application, and that the important components of that application have to do with the marketing, the lottery, and again, I don't know where the status of that is, and if that could be addressed today so that you don't have to wait for another meeting to move forward with this. But we have seen time and time again in the town of Barnstable the difficulties in developers delivering on the appropriate marketing so that it's a fair process, that the units that are affordable don't get leased up after the market rate units get rented up. So I think this is a critical step in the process, and I think the Housing Committee is also part of the leadership of housing initiatives in the town of Barnstable. So I just want to make sure that you don't cede that responsibility because it might be not something that you've had to do for quite a while, so.
I agree with you, Councillor. I haven't seen the fullness of the LIP for this, so I'm not sure we're going to go about doing. Maybe Elizabeth can share a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly defer to you, Hilda. Again, I feel like to the credit of the gentleman before you, they have been very attuned to the length of time that it takes to go through this process and has been pushing very hard to get to this step, honestly, since the beginning of the year. Again, they have submitted a full package relative to an incredibly comprehensive package compared to some of the other applications that we've seen. Again, credit to SEB Housing that have not just the basic sort of 8 requirements of affirmative fair housing marketing relative to posting it in particular newspapers, but really an outreach plan that includes public entities and partners that I would say was somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 pages long relative to the organizations. And our comments back to them was to help them update those contacts so they had that specific list. But Catherine Kaplan at SEB is aces, frankly, and you were happy to come back and share that affirmative fair housing marketing plan with this group and sort of defer signature on the application, so you all have the opportunity to review that marketing plan to make sure it's reaching the right people.
We don't want to extend their time or to delay the project any longer than it needs to be. That's not something that we would like to see done, but we'd like to make sure that that we all get to go over it and see it and make sure everything is up to date.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think how we would like to proceed is we'd like to get the regulatory agreement up to DHCD for review so they can start going through that process. DHCD has a standard form. They did have some changes to that regulatory agreement, which I thought were fairly innocuous, but I'm advised that DHCD scrutinizes any change to the regulatory agreement extensively. So we want to get them going on that. I think we can sign that LIP. I think we could, my advice would be to sign the LIP application and get it up to DHCD. And then if we want to, come back with that affirmative fair housing marketing plan, have this group review it, because that's marketing is not going to start immediately. It has to go through that process. So you all can take a look at that. And as Paula said, not sort of just defer. Again, I'm confident that their list is really comprehensive, but you guys might see something on there that, that we haven't, or a good partner who could do this for us. So again, just to sort of explain the process, they are required to, under the Affirmative Fair Housing Act, open and fairly market these units. So they have a sort of a private contractor on board to run that lottery, as opposed to some of the units we'll talk about later, that have run through the Ready Renters. So they're not doing that. They have somebody contracted to do it themselves, who will run that full marketing process and lottery for them.
Okay.
Looking at the sheet of final construction here in Barnstable, there are 361 units and 36 are affordable. So that is a big range there between 36 that ordinary folk, and most people here are ordinary folk on the Cape all year round. So that's an enormous, 10%. Should be flipped. It should be flipped the other way. because
Is there
we
a
need it.
possibility in this development for local preference?
There will be local preference. We have committed to local preference through SCB as well as Elizabeth.
Yeah, we've worked with Hanover to write the justification for the local preference.
But I'm not waiting.
So do we want to go ahead and vote? What does the panel think, or what do we think?
So again, I'm open to Councilor Schnapp's input, but what I propose would be a vote on signature of the application on the condition that the Housing Committee has the authority to come back and review the affirmative fair housing marketing plan. Does that sound fair?
Okay. Because you don't want to stop the process, but you want to make sure that you stay involved
In
as
the
it moves
process.
along.
Right.
So at this point, do we want to take a vote? Let's see what everybody has to say.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Megan?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Motion for us to, sorry. Want a motion to move? Okay. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Counselor?
I'm not a voter.
Oh, you're
so-
not a voter, yes. So
I'm a liaison.
we will vote. We all agree that we'll let this move forward, and if there's anything that we need to come back to, we'll come back at the table and talk about it. Because we don't want to delay this project anymore. We want to get it up and running, and we want to keep it moving.
Okay, great. Thank you
Great.
very much,
Thank you all
Madam
so
Chair
much.
and members of the committee.
Yes. Is that 1,600?
No, that's the address.
I was going to say, wow,
No, we don't have that many.
we could have everybody over there in that spot.
So we just want to say thank you very much to Hanover, and thanks for all the information that you've brought forward, and we look forward to continue working together. You're welcome. And update from the Planning and Development Department, Elizabeth?
Thank you, Hilda. First, I wanted to note that we did provide the committee with just our updated multifamily housing production spreadsheet. We try to keep this updated at least quarterly for this committee and the public, so members of the public can find this online on the housing website, and we provided here to the committee today. Relative to the strategy of use of municipal property for affordable housing, we are very, very close to a final RFP on the approximately acre parcel at 164 Route 149 Marston's Mills, or as we affectionately call it, the House on the Hill, for an RFP, to put it out for an RFP for up to 2 affordable homeownership units, so a very small dent in the need, but I think has been a great process for us that we can use to hopefully look at how we might potentially do bigger projects in the Marston's Mills area. Yes, sir.
Is that the Marston's Mills Elementary School?
No, this
180
is,
okay.
this is a parcel that the town bought for other purposes, right in the center of Marston's Mills Village. After reconsidering those purposes, the town council did vote affirmatively to change the process, to change the purpose for which this parcel was acquired to affordable housing. So it's a small parcel. Based on our conversations with the Village Association, we feel like the sort of the appropriate density, the appropriate type of development, typology of development is likely single family. Again, with the density probably only at 2 units, given that this area isn't sewered at this point, but a good opportunity for affordable homeownership right in the center of Marston's Mills
Is the
Village.
elementary school anywhere in the,
It is. We are actively talking about the elementary school. It factored in in a big way in our local comprehensive planning process. I think Megan was there. I think because when we think about priorities of that village, it is what rises to the top. We do have bids back on the demolition, so I don't have that date exactly in my head when the building will come down, but it will be this spring. And we have been in close conversation about essentially how do we conduct, a master planning process for that parcel going forward, so we can have community consensus on a future development plan there, that would integrate, I think, some of the community desires for, uses that support that village, housing obviously playing a prominent role, as well as other sort of supportive recreational uses, a lot like Ms. Braggy was talking about, how do we think about this parcel as an opportunity to really create a neighborhood there that, enhances the village of Marston's Mills.
And I know Megan is very interested in tiny houses, and I think that's a very good concept. And we should really see where we could have a location for a number of tiny houses. And that can be a community of its own, too. And, have a little playground for children and a little grocery store, some kind of park. So we should really look into the tiny houses concept.
So Appendix Q is still on reserve. It should have been in the 10 CMR that came out. It, for whatever reason, is not. I've been in touch with Sue Moran about that actually today. And I think if we're looking at $1,800 for a 500 square foot unit, then there is absolutely no reason where we can't do this. Because it's just, that's 100 feet more. So again, I mean, it's up to community consensus and what the public ends up wanting there. But I do think that's a great opportunity for families, for ownership, for a possible income stream for the town. I mean, there's a
And I do feel, like we're seeing a very strong consensus around this idea of small-scale, affordable development, that's energy efficient and, supports the needs of people who are looking to age in place in our community, but also gives sort of growing families flexibility
And
as well.
It's reasonable. Whereas these units that are going to be renting for $3,800, I couldn't pay $3,800. And I have a pension and a retirement, so that's a lot of money. And I don't think the salaries are not marketable for that. I don't see it. I think tiny houses and a good way to go with a little park, and families can be in those tiny houses. Megan, you could be in one of those.
I'm kind of in one now.
Okay, good.
Next, I just wanted to update you guys on an initiative that I have been watching closely. And this sort of gets at the issue of, individuals who are in their homes, but we're seeing these skyrocketing values, skyrocketing property values, which in turn put a tax burden on the individuals who are living there, often seniors, and folks who are really interested in making sure that the housing that they own on Cape Cod continues to be available, not just to seasonal homeowners, but to year-round renters. And so Julian Sear and Sue Moran have co-sponsored legislation that would enable communities to be able to put year-round deed restrictions on dwelling units, and potentially even craft a program around that where and this is very similar to if you guys have been to any of the housing forums and heard sort of the Vail model, allow municipalities to purchase not income restrictions, but year-round restrictions on units, thus giving, again, the homeowners who are in the home today an asset to help them deal with rising housing costs, as well as ensure that for future generations that home would be available to year-round Cape Codders. So again, I think that, that it would obviously need the legislation, and then it would need an alternative funding stream, given that, that sort of purchase would not be CPA eligible. We've heard a lot of advocacy around tax, the transfer tax on high-end housing to be able to support a project like this. But I think this is something that would be a great opportunity, and again, that we are watching closely. And again, I think thank the sponsors of this as well. Jillian, I had asked Jillian to join us and to update us on some of the trust action, but maybe I'll just finish and then I'll let Jillian talk about the latest award that the Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund has made. I did just want to give you guys an update on the status of the housing production plan and our anticipated joint workshop with the planning board, because I think the last time you were together, you guys spent a tremendous amount of time walking through, really with me, the draft that our consultant provided. I will fully admit that this is one of the projects that has been bogged down as a result of not having a housing coordinator and thus a project manager. And as well, really making sure we are being thoughtful about the integration of this project and the local comprehensive plan process that is ongoing as well. So I think we're in a good point at this point where we're really looking forward to phase 2 of that LCP process, where we understand that integration, and we hope to have a revised document. I guess the integration being, if one of the major goals of our housing production plan is to look at how we can increase our supply of our affordable housing. The question being where and in what form do we do that to sort of meet expectations of preserving community character. So, that is sort of at the core of the future land use planning that our LCP is doing. But I think there are many other strategies around affordable housing, like the ones that we're talking about today, that are outlined in those plans, that are outlined in our plans. And really, I think it's important to, again, be able to establish those for our community partners as well as for priority. And we will work to make sure that that document gets updated. I did want to just provide an update on some of the other local action units that are in the mix. We have, as Councilor Schnepp speaks to, two that have been long delayed. The one at 319 Main Street at Cape Cod Times, as well as the one at 1600 Falmouth Road, the Bell Tower Mall. They both opted against small developments, not with the ability to have the resources to hire a private consultant to come in to do those lotteries, to do their own lottery. They went through the ready rental list. There were lotteries held for both of those. There were 99 qualified households for 319 Main Street and 84 qualified households for 1600 Falmouth Road. They also pulled 130. They also qualified 137 households for the ready rental general wait list, and those units are leasing up. And we'll be working to get those units on our subsidized housing inventory. So,
I'm just thinking ahead.
Madam Chair, I just have to leave the meeting, so I just wanted to say goodbye. I have another commitment.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Paula.
Catch up later.
Thank you.
There are places that have purchased motels and made those into affordable units. And we have a number of motels sitting around town, and so you could use that basic structure and then add up to it.
Paula.
Your mic.
Oh, not mechanical. My handyman's not here. Okay. I think looking around to see what motels are around in Barnstable, because those can be used as a start of a building for housing. And they've done that down in, I think it's Orleans.
Yeah, Yarmouth has a really great growth incentive zone project around Route 28 as well, relative to repurposing older motels into
There's one right over
housing.
there by Walgreens on North Main. Isn't there a motel over there? Yeah. But I think that's something to look at. Those properties are properties the town has that they don't use. A old school or a town building that nobody's in.
Yeah. So we absolutely intend to continue to look at use of municipal property
And have
aggressively.
a list of those. If
Yeah.
you could have a list presented to us, what you have, that's very, very helpful.
Yeah, I'll note that one of the other, I thought, very interesting recommendations in the housing production plan that was innovative was looking at, you know, a zoning designation for exactly what you're talking about, sort of disinvested and underutilized property that would then allow for essentially some sort of a density bonus to promote affordable reuse of that property.
It
So
could
I
be
haven't.
combining elderly housing and
Yep, yep.
family housing
Yeah.
together.
So we're looking at 784 units under construction and final construction. And I know that sounds like a lot, but there's also a 1 to 5 year wait list for affordable housing, depending on where you go, whether it's Barnstable Housing Authority or elsewhere. Is there any data we have that would let us know the amount of people currently on a wait list for housing in Barnstable?
Well, certainly the Housing Authority and Housing Assistance Corporation would have those wait list numbers. So, you know, we could, I guess I would defer to Lori, but we could follow up on that. I think that would be the, beyond ready renters, that would be the source that, you know, folks who are, again, looking for vouchers or units would be through the Public Housing
That would be good to have,
Authority.
because you would have the need over here, and then you would see over the places that are possibilities. So you could have a list of the numbers and the list of the possibilities. So then you have something tangible, you know,
I can tell you right now that there's thousands,
thousands.
thousands.
It's a big
Yes.
number.
But I just wanted to make that clear because I know some people might think, oh, 700, that's a lot. But
No, in the
Oh, I
grand
know that.
scheme of things, no,
Right.
it's not, you're right.
So we got to get going. The horse has to speed up.
All right, well, to wrap, I guess I'll just defer to Jillian for a quick update on the latest trust award.
I'm Jillian. Yep. I'm Jillian Douglas. I am the part-time administrator for the Housing Trust. So it's the Housing and Growth Development Trust. I've met some of you, but not all of you, and I will meet you after the meeting. So the update that we just wanted to give you was in February, on February 3rd, the trust voted to award up to $375,000 to a project, which the town has seen before. It's the Forward Project, which is friends or relatives with autism-related disability. So Forward is the acronym. The previous project in the town of Dennis, Forward 1, was 8 units of single-room occupancy. This is a phase 2 of the same project, so same property, 8 more units. This time they will be 1-bedroom units. And that project has been successful. I believe it's almost 80% of those current occupants are Barnstable residents. So that's, or previously were Barnstable residents. And let's see, I think I did want to just touch on something Elizabeth had said about 850, the residences at 850. This is Falmouth Road. We are currently in the lottery process. That has been posted. We are accepting applications. Paper applications are available, and I can share those with people if they need. I also, the company that's doing that is from Worcester, but they are also available. They are hoping to work with other agents on the Cape, so to expand their services on the Cape, which is something that we lack. The monitoring and the fair housing oversight of projects is something that we don't really have a lot of capacity on the Cape right now, because, again, there are so many people looking for housing. And I guess I'll stop there in case there were any questions that people had. So,
Just an operational question. Where does the funding come from for the trust?
so the original,
1% transfer fee or?
not currently, no. So the allocation that we're working with now, it was $2.5 million that were allocated from the Community Preservation Fund, so that the housing component. You have, the town has the capacity to utilize more CPA funds, But the trust is also, it stands to receive at any time that there are mitigation funds, those go into the trust. Things that would be fines, like for example, if someone does not adhere to their development agreement, they can be fined, and those funds would go into the trust. So there's
Continuing sustainable funds, or is this an application every year? Or is there any sustainable
I think Elizabeth
funds?
wanted to speak to that. She looks like she's ready to say something.
I mean, Jillian knows this as well as I do, but there is a certain percentage of the CPA money annually that must be dedicated. I don't know what the
It's
number.
10%
must be dedicated to affordable housing. So essentially, what we've done is we've established the Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust, and they act as essentially the administrators of those funds for CPC. So they have that continued allocation. I'm not going to say the issue is, but one of the limitations of that is, it does require, again, it can only be spent up to 100%. Any unit that's produced there has to be eligible for, affordable units have to be eligible for the SHI. And so when we talk about projects like the year-round deed restriction, though funding of those types of projects would not be eligible through CPA, which is our sort of main and recurring funding source for affordable housing in the town. So I think really thinking about creative ways to open up other funding sources for affordable housing will drive, I think, a lot of the innovation that our community is looking for relative to what we can do.
So is it the conservation funds that are the 2% per year, and then they give 10% of that to this trust?
So, yeah, our CPA percentage, our Community Preservation Act percentage is 3% in the town of Barnstable. So then 10% of that funds, and they can spend more, but at least 10% of those funds have to go to affordable housing.
Good,
Again, for
'cause
units.
Continuity is so important in something like this. You can see
So
how
we
long
have
these
that
take.
benefit.
And applications, we need applications
Yeah.
from community
It's
to
partners, right?
Yeah.
And part of that is the zoning and entitlement piece, and really, again, I think zoning for the types of housing that we want at the affordable levels that we want, and we're in a place that will be supported. Our community will be supportive of.
So maybe this already exists, but is there an opportunity for kind of a loop of cash, if you will, kind of a revenue stream? So say town buys a property, leases it, some of that income goes to the town. Could some of that income then go to certain trusts to kind of also boost housing in said town?
There's probably a lot of financial
I'm
details,
sure.
but yes, there are ways that the town can sort of designate revolving funds or other sorts of funding sources specifically for affordable housing, typically, with the support of the council. At this point, our short-term rental money is going to wastewater, not to housing, but we did see some communities take some of that revenue and dedicate it to affordable housing.
And if I could also, Elizabeth had mentioned a transfer tax on properties over $1 million is something that's currently, I believe that legislation has gone to the House, I believe. So there's pending legislation that would allow for a local enabling action. So any town could then do that if they sought to impose such a tax. So it would be in addition to the Community Preservation Act tax that you have.
Should be someone that represents housing on the town council.
There are elections coming up.
But really, it's something to think about.
Yeah, I will speak to this committee. You have a very active town council liaison, and we're fortunate to have that. Our councilors are elected by geography and precincts,
Well,
but
we lost Paul Hebert.
yeah, but you are the advisory group to the town council on housing,
But
so.
there should be someone permanent there that has, on that seat. Every time, you meet once a week or once a month or whatever it is, I don't know. Town council,
Twice a month. Yeah.
twice a month. There should be someone there that, that the town should hire. I don't know.
Okay. Was there anything else, Jillian, that you needed to share with us?
I did want to note that there is a comment period right now with the Home Consortium. This is the annual action plan, which is, it's going to run, let's see, I'm sorry, there will be a public hearing on Monday, the 24th, and the public comment period started on April 10th and will run through May 11th. And those information about that, I have a couple of copies if anybody needed to look at that, but it's also on the Cape Cod Commission and the Home Consortium's website. It's under Human Services.
Thank you. You're off. Anybody else have any question for Jillian? Okay. We'll take a look at the information that you brought for us. We'll take the applications that you have.
And I will hope to attend your meetings when you're, from now on, as long as I'm here.
That would be good. That'd be great to get. So, is that what? Yeah, approval of the minutes.
My only concern is that's when I get out of work, 7:30, 8 o'clock if I'm lucky. I only work at Cape Cod Hospital, it's not far, so I could likely make an 8 a.m., so I kind of defer that to anybody else.
Oh, don't. I have two sons that live in Spain that are coming for the summer, and for me, hopping out at 3:30 in the afternoon when we're going to be having fun on the lawn or something. But I think morning meetings are really good meetings for me. I don't know what other people feel.
I'm the primary this summer. I have an infant that I am watching all day, so 4 p.m. is much better for me.
Okay,
I agree.
all right. We'll go with the needs.
Can we have the approval of minutes for May 4th, July 18th, September 7th, November 9th, December 14th, and December 1st? Yes.
All those dates are because we didn't have a quorum.
You may not make a motion.
Everybody got copies that we need a motion to approve?
We get a motion for the minutes to be approved.
Second?
Aye.
Even if you weren't a committee member, as long as you've seen the minutes and you believe that they're an accurate reflection of that meeting, then you are authorized to vote to approve. I know there's a lapse on a lot of those, so.
Okay, so Megan did, and we got that approved. Do we have a next meeting date, or we will think about it?
Yeah, I
thoughts
mean,
about
I
it?
guess I would defer to you. We'd love to get you that information on the affirmative fair housing marketing. I mean, if the second Wednesday of the month continues to work for this group, I mean, that would be May 10th, and it looks like this room is wide open. Should we aim for May 10th?
Unfortunately, I won't be here
Okay.
for the month.
Another
For that.
Wednesday? Oh, and it won't be here in May.
Be back until like the 14th, 15th, so it'd be the following week.
May 17th? Is that when you'd be back?
Yeah, I'll be back.
Third
for-
Wednesday?
I don't know if that will work for everybody. Or if you
Well,
mind.
How about I'll check in with you maybe the week before when you get back, check in with
Sure.
me, but we'll aim for the 17th or the 24th.
17th.
Sound good?
17th.
May 5th?
May 17th.
17th, okay, all right. Yeah, we get later than that, we get really close to Memorial Day.
Okay, so
All right.
we will make a run. Can we move that the meeting be adjourned?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Hey,
Aye.
thank you all. Thanks for coming out.